rank and weighted grades. We've been reviewing some policies that regard this.
When we spoke at our last board meeting, one of the things we talked about were the policies, and I thought we should probably back up a step and have Linda kind of explain more what we do here, how we do it, and why we've done it, the way that we do. So she does have a very nice presentation. Do all the board members know Linda, our high school guidance counselor?
Hi, it's nice. Hi, Randy. It's nice to meet you. Who else do I know? Hi, Chris. In my senior year in high school, I took drama. I'm not sure why, because at one point I forgot my line and went busting out off the stage in tears, sobbing into the ladies' room. So just to kind of set the stage that these kinds of presentations are a struggle for me, but here I am. I did print a copy of my PowerPoint presentation if anyone wants to follow, but the really pretty graphics on here did not translate so well on paper. But if you'd like it to make notes, you can have one. Maybe I'll pass them around if someone wants to take one. This is a lot to cover in 15 minutes or less, but I'm going to do the best I can. Some of the things that we've talked about is grade point average and class rank and what we use them for and how we calculate them. And so one of the first things I wanted to say is, how do we calculate a grade point average? And at Edwards Knox, we use every course that bears a credit in the calculation of a cumulative grade point average, with one exception. The college courses that are taught on the Distance Learning Network. Intro to Psych, Intro to Sociology, we've had students take Modern U.S. History. Those courses have not counted towards a student's GPA for several reasons. And one is our attempt to encourage students to stretch themselves and to take courses that they're in an environment that they're unfamiliar with. And we don't want to discourage them from taking that in the concerns about how it might affect their grade point average. And the other part of that is that there's a conversion chart that is part of our policy. And the students are given a letter grade, typically for a college course. And an A is a 95. Now, in my world, a 95 would have been an exceptional thing. But some of our students, a 95 would actually be a detriment to their GPA. And there isn't any flexibility, even if they had a perfect grade, if they had an A, which you might kind of consider a perfect score on a college course, it's only a 95. And so those courses have not been used. And there is only one exception to that rule, and that is if it's used to meet a high school graduation requirement. In the past, we've had some students take an Intro to Government or an Intro to Politics course, which could be substituted for the high school level course in government and politics and economics that is required. So in that case, because it's used as a graduation requirement, we have to use it as part of our calculation. All courses are weighted based on the credit that the course earns, and that's a typical thing. So the English, math course, science courses, those courses that have a credit or one credit weighting, use that as a full credit. The half credit courses like PE or health or band weight as a half credit, and I'll explain that to you in just a second here. I think I have an example. We talk a lot about quality points when we're doing GPAs, and this chart, I hope, explains it best. If you had a final average of 95 in English, the quality points earned for that course is 95, and the credits are 1. Health, if you got a 90, the quality points is 45, and the credits are half. And PE the same, if it's a final average of 80, you take the quality points of 40 and half. And then you take your quality points and divide by your total credits, which gives you an average of 90. That was the easiest way for me to try and explain this kind of complicated. If I started talking to you guys about quality points, you'd look at me like I lost my mind. We do our first class rank from our 6th semester GPA. And we do that by including all courses that a student has taken and completed before the end of their junior year. And it's called a 6th semester GPA because generally it's 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, and there are 2 semesters each grade level. The exception to that is that students that are accelerated in 7th and 8th grade, and in 8th grade they take a high school biology or a high school algebra class. Those courses also included in the student's GPA. The 6th semester GPA is needed for students that are applying to college. The students need to know what their averages are. It helps them to try and find a college that is suitable for them to apply. If a college is accepting students with a 92 GPA and you have an 82 GPA, it's probably not going to be a place that you should apply because you're not going to be generally accepted. So it's a piece of information for students as they start that college application process. And as I said to you before, we use it to create our first class rank. And who do we rank? And we rank everyone who has resided in the district for at least 3 out of the 4 high school years, and students who are scheduled to complete their graduation requirements in the current school year. And the current school year starts July 1 and ends June 30th. Technology. Why do we rank students? One of the reasons that we rank students is because colleges request it. And I put that they request it because I've done a lot of calling around and speaking with schools and getting some information, and I'm finding that not all schools, high schools, actually rank students. It does allow us to name a valedictorian and a salutatorian, and it can be used for the purposes of scholarship. However, I'm finding that that class rank has diminished in recent years. And my point that I want to make with that is about 10 years ago, it was in my investigation with college admissions people, it was very often that merit scholarship was given to students based on a class rank of 1st or 2nd. It was fairly common, actually. And in my current investigation, I have found that, and maybe it's because they have more merit scholarships to give, that would be my thought, but I didn't ask this question about that. But I'm finding that their merit scholarships are based on their averages. If they have a 90 average or higher, if they rank in the top 10% of their class, if they have an SAT score, an ACT score of a certain level, and it depends. Some merit scholarships are given at some colleges with students with it start at an 85 average. Some merit scholarships need to have a 95 average. So it's a broad range, whereas before it used to be that class ranked 1st and 2nd, and it's more towards their average and less towards their ranking class. It's always good for me to be asked these questions because colleges change their procedures, and for some unknown reason they don't call me at Edwards-Knox and ask me if that's okay or do I understand. And I guess it's just supposed to be for me to periodically call and find out that things are kind of done the same. The thing that I find that with merit scholarships or any of those admissions procedures is that it's constantly changing. And it's hard for me to know all, I can't possibly know the admission procedures for all colleges. I'm willing to call and find out, particularly if a student has a particular interest in a college, or I haven't heard from that particular college in a while. I do some of those phone calls, but it was really good for me to kind of get a better understanding, trying to get prepared to do this presentation. So I appreciate that. When we do final class rank, it's based on 7 semesters, and we do that at the end of the first term of their senior year, which happens at the end of January. Generally, we can't create it until the middle of February. There are some factors that kind of go into the timing of when we can do that. Everyone's grades have to be in. If a student has an incomplete at any time during their senior year, we can't do it. The one thing that we do at Edwards Knox that I think is a benefit for our students that other schools do not do is that we include in the 7th semester GPA courses in progress. And the point that I want to make with that is that 6th semester GPA is through your junior year. And then if you do a 7th semester GPA based solely on courses completed at the end of the 7 semesters, then if a student is taking an art class or taking a business class that ends in January, that course is finished. Some schools, that's the only course that they add into that 7th semester GPA. But what I do, and it's a bit painstaking, I sit down with every student's report card and I calculate the quality points that a student would earn for their English class or their math class or their science class based on that half credit that they've completed, so that all of the coursework that they're doing in the senior year counts to increase their GPA, well, I should say affect their GPA, because sometimes it's an increase and sometimes not. But it's an opportunity to affect their GPA in a positive way with all of the things that they're doing in their senior year. And so this is a representation of what I do. This is a 6th semester GPA with the quality points divided by the credits that's earned. A student at 6 semesters had a 95.5824 GPA. And at 7 semesters, we added this 273.61 quality points and 2 3/4 credits of coursework with a 7 semester GPA of a 96.00. It kind of worked out that way. I don't quite know how I did it. Because very rarely do they come on an even. Yes?
Can you go back to that?
Maybe. Which way? Maybe not.
So my question was, what
I guess
number in
not.
that example was the in progress?
It was, I had it all working too just before.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's just me and the technology, that's all.
So in the
This
example,
is the in progress.
how do you get that number?
That is, as the example that I showed you before, if English was a 95, then the quality points were 95, and the health class was 90, so the quality points were 45, and that was a half credit. What I do is, let's just say if the student has a 95, or excuse me, a 90 in English at the end of the first semester, and I take an average. I actually sit down and calculate the average. I take the first quarter and second quarter. If they have a 90 average for first semester, that's 45 quality points and a half credit for that English class, because it's half done, okay? So there would be 45 points for English, and then if they had an 80 in their math class, then there would be 40 points for their math course. And then I count the credits, like half credit for English and a half credit for math. And then if they've finished a course like a drawing and painting class, and that's a half credit, then I take the quality points for that and add that half credit. I take that final average for that. So that's what that is. But that's okay.
I have a question too.
Sure.
Was it last week or the last time we got together, we had a copy of the information of our policy manual, 7223?
I think that's,
Yes.
That's the current policy manual that we use?
Right.
They don't mention anything about GPA in the policy manual or the courses in progress. So that's something that we need to,
the whole thing is something we need to review.
That's
That's
why
why
we're
we're looking
looking
at
at
the
it.
policy.
Right.
In addition to some of the problems that have come up over the last couple of years.
Right. Now, I have been here 18 years, and this is the process that has been carried on since before then. If it's not written down,
So we've been doing this the way you're explaining it,
since long before I
and
was,
that's not reflected in our policy manual.
as far as the courses in progress,
Yeah,
I guess not. Is it not, if it's not written down?
unless it's somewhere that I don't even.
I don't know what the 7th semester, there is a place in a handbook that addresses 7th semester, or in the policy book, but I didn't bring that.
Okay.
And then, what I wanted to do was to talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons of weighting a GPA, because I know that was one of the things that you guys are discussing a little bit. One of the pros is that it will raise a student's GPA. It could potentially affect class rank. However, the limited calculations that I've done, I have not, that didn't play out. A lot of times what it did is it brought the students closer together in the calculations. Now, I'm going to say that, but it was very limited, and I didn't do the whole class because I had other things to do. And it depends too on what you decide to, if you make any decisions about weighting any courses, it's going to depend on what you weight and how much you weight and all of those other things. This also matters because, I mean, one of the things that I looked at was when I talked with some of the other high schools, there is many different, every school that does weighted grades and weighted GPAs does it differently. There isn't one thing. And in the end, the people I felt sorry for were the college admissions people who have to try to make heads or tails out of it. The one thing that would affect this is if we had more courses, like if you were to think that maybe you should weight AP courses, if we had more AP courses that our students took before their senior year, I could see how this could affect a student's GPA or class rank more than AP courses that are taken during the senior year, because again, the courses that a student takes in the senior year, we only take half of that course for final class rank. And some say that it could encourage students to challenge themselves and take harder classes. I haven't always seen that with the distance learning classes, but I'm not sure that I've been very clear with them about the fact that it doesn't affect their class rank. Maybe I need to make that a part of my presentation with them. Some of the cons is that it could cause friction among students and teachers. It might foster the idea that other courses are not as valuable. And I had a person say to me very clearly that the idea of weighting a course isn't making one class more valuable than the other. It's just showing that it's more rigorous than others. I said, okay. I guess I can see that, maybe.
When you say weighting, are you talking about how you're using the quality points?
No,
Okay, so
no.
something different?
Something different.
So what is weighting then? How are we weighting?
I don't weight anything at this point.
Oh,
But I know there's some discussion about the possibility of weighting some classes. Giving more weight to an AP biology or AP calculus in a student's GPA. Where was I? It may actually discourage a student from pursuing a course that they have a passion or an extreme interest in to influence their GPA or class rank. And the example that I gave to the person I was discussing with this earlier today was we have a student who is incredibly passionate about art and wants to be an art historian and really wants to take a portfolio development class so that they can prepare their portfolio for when they go to college, and it happens to schedule at the same time as AP Biology. Which course does that student choose? They then have to choose to them what is the most important for them. And so that becomes a decision that the family, parents and students would have to make. Take AP biology because it might affect their GPA in a greater way, or take the portfolio class because it's an important thing that they need to do. And, to me, some of it comes from the discussion of what's important to the student, and what's important to that family for that student. And there was some discussion about the possibility of not just weighting AP courses, but also weighting courses that include college credit, which for us right now could be the DL courses, could be our accounting class, could be a course we call as college algebra through Paul Smith's, and could be a large number of our tech programs at BOCES. They have a lot of agreements with different colleges for credits. And then I asked the question, what do colleges think about weighting GPAs and class ranks? And as you can imagine, the answers to that were about as varied as the colleges that I asked. And I asked all kinds of colleges. Darn it, Princeton and Johns Hopkins didn't get back to me.
Oh, no.
But I did ask Hartwick, and I did ask RIT, and I asked St. Lawrence, and I asked some of the SUNY schools. I tried to kind of get a mix without spending crazy amounts of time on it. And some say that they take the GPA that is reported by the high school, and the other opposite side of that is that they discard the GPA altogether, and they calculate their own using English, social studies, math, science, and language, and everything in between. Some say that a weighted GPA is a benefit to the student, and some say that they don't care because they calculate their own. Some say that class rank is highly important, and some say that it doesn't matter at all. Some admissions personnel use this was the most consistent answer, that the college admissions people really look at our school profile to determine the rigor of a student's academic program. They want to know that they have taken the most rigorous application. If a student is going to a highly selective school, they want to know that a student has challenged themselves academically. And we right now offer 2 AP classes. And if a student has taken 2 AP classes compared to someone else's, 10 AP classes at another school, you think, well, that's not fair because they had a chance to take 10. But they look very closely at our profile to see what is available to Edwards Knox students. And I think that's great to know. It was very comforting to me. And some said that class rank actually can hurt a student's application from a small school. And I went, no kidding. And the reason, as we got talking about this, we actually had a class here not too long ago, 3 or 4 years ago. It was highly competitive. And I think there were 38 or 40 kids maybe that were ranked in that class. And 15 of them had a GPA of 90 or better. So if the college says, and this happens, and I'd love to tell you it doesn't, but if they say, we only take students from the top 25% of their class, because that looks really good on their profile, then we had a handful of students who had 90 averages or better, who would not have been considered for acceptance at that college, even though they had a 90 average or better. And it's because they were in a group of students that are highly competitive, and there's a whole bunch of them that had high grades. One of the points I want to make with this is that there is not going to be any one perfect answer. So I don't really envy the decisions that you guys are looking at and having to make.
So can I ask a question?
Sure. Should I
How
go
are the
back?
No, that's okay. How are the SAT scores now coming into play with college accepting students? I hear that some colleges look at them strongly and some don't look at them at all.
You know, that's one of those questions things that keeps changing. More and more colleges don't use them at all for admission. Some of them do, some of them don't. But they still use them for merit scholarship, and that's what I'm finding. So if they don't require them for admission, you may have to submit them anyway because they use them for merit options. Like St. Lawrence doesn't require SATs any longer. SUNY Canton requires no SAT or ACT for their 2-year programs, but they do require them for your 4-year degree programs. SUNY Potsdam doesn't require the SAT. They used to, they don't any longer. It's a constant change. It's like the pendulum is swinging back in the other direction. Oh, okay. Here's another question that you guys are facing. I know. Who participates in graduation? Any student, at this point, any student who has met their graduation requirements during that school year, including students with a local, a Regents, Advanced Regents diploma, an IEP, or students with a GED/vocational diploma. And I put the asterisks there because our students who are taking the alternative GED program to participate in our graduation ceremony must also complete their BOCES program. That's something that's really important, that students not only have that equivalency, that if that's the route they're going to take, that we want them to also have that vocational training. So that was important to us. 1 year since I've been here, have we allowed students to participate in graduation ceremony that had not met their graduation requirements. And it really kind of turned into a farce. The students were angry. They showed it while they were on stage. It was a very uncomfortable situation for all of the students that participated. And after that decision was made to allow the students to participate in graduation, the next board meeting, I believe, or some board meeting shortly after that, it was a decision was made clearly that we would have a graduation ceremony, not a commencement ceremony, and that we would include any student that participated, who met their graduation requirements in August, January, and June. And we want our students to participate in the graduation ceremony. It's an important part of that transition for them, but we wanted to make it kind of clear as to which ceremony they could participate in. And one of the things that I wanted to create was this chart to show you how students get to graduation. Number 1 student at the top is a typical 4-year student. The student started in September of 2008, took 4 years to complete high school, never attended summer school, never took any online courses or college courses or anything. Finished their coursework in June and participated in the 2012 graduation. And then there are all of these exceptions. A student who took 4 years to go through school, but somewhere between, maybe their 9th and 10th grade year, went to summer school, finished their coursework, and participated in the 2012 graduation. Student number 3 is 4+ years. They went to summer school and they attended summer school in August. After their 4 years, they are invited to return for graduation in 2013. And we have had students who've done this. We have had students who've opted not to do this. So we've had both ways, but we invite them. Student number 4, who have taken 5 years to finish. Maybe they've had a bad start in 9th grade and took a lot of 9th grade courses over and then decided they want to go to the tech center. So they've been here 5 years and they've participated in June. We had students that started in the following year, the year after most of the typical graduates, took 3 years, but went to summer school between their junior and senior year. or I should say their second and third year, and participated in graduation in June. We've had students who have done 3 years. We've had students that didn't attend summer school and then did attend summer school. Then we've had students that have done online and DL courses to meet their graduation requirements. Then we've had students that have been 3 years plus a summer to participate in graduation. And then 3.5 years that have finished school in January and come back to participate in graduation. And my point for this was not to make your head spin, but really to show you that this is a typical student. This is most of our students, but there are all these exceptions. And when you start making exceptions to the rule and, deciding who can and who can't participate, you have to then make provisions for when there's a different example. Some of the other things that I want you guys to think about a little bit is that graduation requirements have been changing. They have been changing almost most of the years I've been here. Graduation requirements haven't been the same for year to year to year. For so many years, it's almost insane. But this is the first graduating year where students can no longer earn a local diploma, a general ed student. A local diploma is only an option for a CSE student. And at graduation, we have denoted the types of diplomas that students have received. And I'm very concerned, and my conversation with Sherry White, our CSE chairperson, has the same concern about continuing to make an announcement of every student's diploma type will indicate whether or not a student is a CSE student or not. And we have real concerns about that. One of the things that we want to suggest is maybe making a suggestion of those diplomas above and beyond a Regents diploma. If they get a Regents diploma with honors, or an advanced Regents diploma, or an advanced Regents diploma with honors. And also, one of the things that we've been kind of talking about is, and the question keeps coming up, is that we give 2 diplomas. We actually create 2 diplomas for students that earn a Regents diploma. Now, back in 1998, that was 20 students, about 40% of our students. And because of these changes in the diploma options, it will be more like 90% of our students. We'll be creating a second diploma for students. And that's something that maybe we should, you guys should talk about, is whether or not it makes any sense to continue to make a second diploma for students. And I think you have a copy of some of those diplomas. I think that's it. I know I went over 15 minutes, didn't I? I did. Sorry.
That's fine. You did a good job. A lot of information.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else?
Does anybody have questions?
Yes. Can you briefly explain what quality points are? When I was in school, we didn't have, we had an average.
Right. A quality point is just something that I create to calculate the average, and that goes back to that first chart that I gave you with the quality points are based on the weight that the course is awarded. So the 95 for the 1 credit course, the course with an 80 average that is half credit is a 40 quality points.
So the difference between first science and driver's ed would be different.
That's right, yeah.
I understand.
I also have copied, I made a sample transcript, which is for Edward S. Knox, and he happens to live in Edwards. And if anybody would like to see the kinds of things that we actually put on a high school transcript, we have just actually created a custom transcript a year or so ago, and we're pretty proud of it. And I'd love if anyone wants a copy of it to see what they look like.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Now I can breathe. There you go. Yeah. Very good presentation. Thank you.